All right, so if you're a new hunter and you're looking to buy your first hunting knife, let's take a second to talk about the Buck 110. But before we do, I want to show off my new vest. If you saw my other videos on how to tan buckskin, well, this is the buckskin vest that I made this year. And this is the first video that I've done where I've had an opportunity to wear it. Now, right up here, I decided to go on and leave my bullet hole. That way, when people see it, when I'm out wearing it in town, they ask why it has a hole in it. It makes for a really nice conversation. And then right down here is the antler tips that I just used for my buttons. So I really hope you like it. So let's get into this video. This right here is a Buck 110. This thing hit the market in 1964. It's a great overall durable knife. It's sharpened up relatively easy. I will say that this knife is only 2 years old and it's only been used once. I used it last weekend when I processed 2 sheep. And from field to freezer, this is the only knife that I used. And not one time did I have to stop and resharpen it. So if you're an elk hunter or a bear hunter or something like that, you're really going to have to hit a lot of bone and possibly dirt to dull this knife to the point where it's not even usable. So I don't think you have any concerns with that. I will say that this blade is very comparable to the 102 that I did a review on a few weeks ago. And the overall size and shape is the same, with the exception of this dimension right here is a little bit longer. So I feel like you could get a little more sharpenings out of this knife and it still be overall usable. Now, the absolute best feature of this knife is that really nice audible click. I love that. And the reason I like that, because if I'm out at night and it's dark, it's raining or whatever, I'm in a hurry, I want to know that this knife is really locked into position and it's not going to come out and possibly fold up on my fingers while I'm using it, because that would cause a whole lot of hurt. So I really like that feature about this. Now, the only negative thing that I can say about this knife is when it hit the market in 1964, there was not a lot of ultralight gear back then. That just wasn't a concern for people. So if you're somebody where every ounce matters, this knife is a little bit heavy. So when you put this thing on a scale, and just the knife alone comes in at 7.4 ounces. So this is almost a half a pound just by itself. Add in the sheath that it comes with, and you're at 9.45 ounces. That's over half a pound. Now, the Buck 102 knife and sheath comes in at 4.6 ounces. So that's quite a bit of difference when you're trying to count every single ounce when you're on a really long distance hunt or you're going up a high elevation. You're going to notice that, because you keep adding ounces on top of ounces. That makes pounds. So you want to kind of keep that in mind. But if you're like me and you're an Eastern Kentucky hunter, it's not really a big issue, because typically we only walk a couple hundred yards to our deer stand. Sometimes on government land, we'll walk up to a mile, mile and a half. But again, we're not walking extremely long, 10, 12 miles, staying out for days. Typically, we're not doing that. So this right here is a really good option if you're a hunter. And the second best feature about this knife is it's relatively inexpensive. So if you tend to be a little irresponsible and you lose things, if you drop this in the woods when it's dark or snowing or whatever and you're in a really big hurry, you didn't really lose a really expensive knife. So not really a good thing, but I wouldn't call it necessarily a bad thing, because it's relatively inexpensive and you can find these things anywhere. Now, chances are this is probably the knife that your grandfather used or possibly still uses. These are very, very popular knives. But again, the only negative drawback to this knife is the overall weight. But if that's not a concern to you, go on and buy this knife. It's extremely durable. It's going to last. And like I said, if you're worried about blade retention and the knife going dull on you, you don't have to worry about with this blade. It held up really well on them sheep that I did. So one thing I'd like to point out is after I got done processing my sheep, I did go on and put this back on a stone, and then I finished it on my leather belt. And I'm going to show you something. I don't know how much sharper you need to get a knife than this, but it will shave you. So the ability to be able to sharpen this back is no concern. It is very easily to sharpen back. Now, I had one of these back in the late 90s, early 2000s, and it was the only knife that I had at the time. And I cannot tell you how many critters that I've cleaned with this knife. Several hundred critters. Squirrels, rabbits, deer, that kind of thing. Chickens. You know, everything I did with this just one knife. So again, if you're looking for a knife and you're looking for something inexpensive, go on and pick you up a buck 110. I don't think you'll regret it. So thanks for watching, and please like and subscribe.